now.
You are resisting!
I do not consent. This is unlawful.
You never mess with the wrong person on the wrong night. General Amelia Thompson's voice held steady as Officer Hayes twisted her arm behind her back, the handcuffs clicking shut with a bite that drew a thin trickle of blood. Talking back to authority, Captain Langford sneered, looming over her like a storm cloud. That's how folks like you get into real trouble. Thompson didn't flinch. She memorized every detail. Hayes's badge number gleaming under the streetlight, Langford's faint limp from an old injury, the way the evening air in Riverside carried the scent of freshly mowed lawns from the upscale suburbs nearby. This wasn't just any traffic stop. It was a checkpoint designed to keep certain people in their place, and tonight, they'd picked the one woman who could turn their world upside down. As they shoved her into the squad car, Thompson sat silently, her mind already mapping out the fallout. Little did these officers know, one phone call would unravel their careers and expose a rotten system that had plagued her community for months. 2 hours earlier, the sun dipped low over Oak Ridge Park, casting long shadows across the modest homes and bustling streets where families like Thompson's had lived for generations. At 52, General Amelia Thompson, a 4-star Marine Corps veteran with a career forged in the fires of command, drove her plain sedan toward Riverside. The transition from Oak Ridge's vibrant but underfunded blocks to Riverside's manicured lawns was always stark a reminder of the invisible lines dividing America's neighborhoods. Blue lights flashed ahead, barricades funneling traffic into a single lane. A routine checkpoint, or so it seemed. Thompson rolled down her window as Officer Hayes approached, his flashlight beam dancing across her face like an accusation. "License and registration," he barked. She handed them over calmly, her movements deliberate. "May I ask the purpose of this stop?" she inquired politely. Hayes's posture stiffened. "Standard procedure. Wait here." He retreated to his cruiser, radioing in her details with an emphasis on her Oak Ridge Park address that wasn't lost on her. Minutes ticked by as he conferred with Captain Langford, who emerged from a nearby trailer with a swagger that screamed entitlement. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am," Langford ordered, his tone laced with false courtesy. Thompson complied, but not without question. "My identification is valid. What's the reasonable suspicion for an enhanced search?" Langford's eyes narrowed. "We decide that. Hands on the hood." She placed her palms flat against the warm metal, stating clearly, "I do not consent to a search without probable cause. Terry versus Ohio sets the standard." A chuckle escaped Langford. "Listen to the lawyer here. Thinks she's smart." The subtext hung heavy in the air. "Your kind always causes problems." Drivers in adjacent lanes craned their necks, some pulling out phones to record. Langford noticed and signaled another officer, Doyle, to intervene. "Move these cars along. No filming." Thompson cataloged it all. The plates of the white drivers waved through without a second glance. The black and brown faces from Oak Ridge pulled aside for random inspections. This wasn't random. It was a pattern, one she'd heard about from neighbors and service members alike. "Last chance to cooperate," Langford warned. "Or it's obstruction." Thompson held her ground. "I request a supervisor." He smirked. "You're looking at him." Hayes grabbed her arm, yanking it back with unnecessary force. "Stop resisting," he yelled, though she hadn't moved a muscle. "I'm complying under protest," she said evenly, her voice steady for any hidden recorder. Hayes's body cam light flickered off conveniently, she noted. She could have disarmed him in seconds, her training whispering possibilities, but tonight's mission required restraint. They cuffed her tightly, the metal digging in as they searched her car fruitlessly. "Oak Ridge folks always got something hidden," Langford muttered. Thompson's watch vibrated subtly, a beacon activated, alerting her contacts. "You're under arrest for obstruction and resisting," Langford declared, reading her rights with relish. A young Latina woman in a nearby car, Sofia Reyes, kept filming discreetly, their eyes meeting in a silent pact. Thompson nodded imperceptibly as they forced her into the cruiser. The ride to Riverside Precinct was tense, Hayes slamming the door with a thud. Through the window, Thompson watched Langford joke with his team, gesturing toward Oak Ridge like it was a punchline. She rehearsed her next move, knowing the clock was ticking on their arrogance. Fluorescent lights buzzed in the processing room, the air thick with stale coffee and disinfectant. Thompson stood straight for her mugshot, eyes unyielding. "Name?" the clerk droned. Amelia Thompson. He glanced at her address. Oak Ridge Park, huh? Figures. Behind her, Hayes and Langford lingered by the water cooler, their laughter carrying. Another one thinking she's above the rules. Had to teach her a lesson. Phone call. Thompson asked. The clerk pointed to a wall phone. 1. Make it quick. She dialed from memory, not a lawyer, but the Department of Defense Operations Center. Authorization code Bravo Tango 752, she said crisply. Initiating protocol echo. Location transmitted. The voice on the other end confirmed. Response en route. ETA 45 minutes. She hung up as Councilman Harold Jenkins strode in, his expensive watch catching the light. Everything under control? He asked Langford. Yes, sir. Just another refuser. Your safety initiative is working wonders. Thompson was led to a holding cell, the door clanging shut. She sat composed on the bench, back ramrod straight. The wall clock read 9:15 p.m. In 45 minutes, the tide would turn. Interrogation room walls closed in like a vice, the single bulb casting harsh shadows. Thompson sat cuffed to the table, wrists throbbing. Langford entered with her belongings, dropping them carelessly. Comfortable, he taunted. She remained silent, letting him fill the void. He flipped through her wallet, pausing at her military ID. Marine Corps General? For stars? Nice fake. He tossed it down, stepping on it for good measure. That credential is legitimate, she replied calmly. Langford laughed. Sure, and I'm the president. Through the thin walls, she heard Jenkins's voice. Make an example of her. Oak Ridge types need to learn. Hayes joined, pressing on her shoulders intimidatingly. Sign the confession. Plead to obstruction, out by morning. Thompson shook her head. I invoke my right to counsel. They ignored it, tactics straight from a bad playbook. A knock interrupted. Detective Marcus Hale entered, his sharp eyes scanning the scene. Captain, a word. Outside, whispers escalated. Hale returned, examining the ID. This has holograms. Microprint, it's real. Langford scoffed. Stolen, then. Hale straightened. I served in the Army. This is authentic. Ma'am, your rank. General Amelia Thompson, U.S. Marine Corps. Hale's posture shifted to respect. Jenkins burst in, demanding quick processing. She's a high-ranking officer, Hale protested. We need verification. Jenkins waved it off. My ordinance overrides. Get it done. The phone rang. Pentagon inquiring about General Thompson. Langford's face paled. They knew her details. The room froze as reality dawned. Military SUVs pulled up outside. Colonel Nathan Brooks entered with MPs, saluting Thompson. General, we're here. Cuffs came off, apologies murmured. But this was no simple release. Thompson revealed. This is an investigation into your discriminatory checkpoints. Jenkins blustered. Absurd. But evidence mounted. Thompson's hidden recordings, Hale's flash drive of internal memos showing racial quotas, demographic targeting tied to real estate schemes. Flashback to the operation's genesis. Months ago, DoD received complaints from troops harassed at Riverside checkpoints. Thompson, a black woman in command, volunteered to test the system undercover. Tonight confirmed the rot. Stops based on zip code, not behavior, funneling Oak Ridge residents into arrests to depress property values for developers funding Jenkins. On-site, Brooks's team secured body cams, logs, emails. Hale provided stats. 85% of Oak Ridge stops led to searches versus 5% for Riverside whites. Footage from Sophia Reyes showed selective enforcement. Hayes yelling "Stop resisting" at a compliant Thompson. Tensions peaked as Jenkins tried to flee, MPs blocking him. This is outrageous, he shouted. Thompson replied coolly. Outrageous is violating rights systematically. Federal agents arrived, forming a joint task force. Briefings exposed emails from Langford. Prioritize Oak Ridge, plates higher yields. Jenkins's directives. Keep the undesirables out to boost property. Audio clips played. Jenkins saying, safety's the sell, but values are the goal. The room erupted in arguments, Langford denying context, Hayes claiming orders, Jenkins accusing entrapment. Hale shared his turning point. His nephew, a black college student, detained for hours without cause. It hit home, he admitted, voice cracking. Thompson nodded. That's why we're here to end it for everyone. Arrests followed. Jenkins, Langford, Hayes charged with civil rights violations, obstruction. The program dismantled overnight. Victims like Hale's nephew got expungements, compensation. Riverside streets quieted, no more barricades choking commutes. Weeks later, Capitol Hill buzzed for hearings. Thompson testified in dress blues. This wasn't isolated. Checkpoints became weapons against minorities. Data flashed, disparities in stops, arrests 7 times higher for blacks. Questions flew: why military involvement? Service members were targeted too, she explained. Reforms proposed: mandatory data transparency, independent oversight. The Equitable Policing Act passed, mandating audits for bias. Hale joined FBI civil rights, leading trainings. Nationwide, complaints dropped 65%, trust rebuilt. In Oak Ridge Park, a community meeting celebrated. Thompson, in civies, listened as residents shared stories: jobs lost to false arrests, families uprooted. A grandmother approached. "You gave us back our streets." Thompson smiled. "We did it together." Years on, Thompson oversaw national reforms, flagging similar schemes. Riverside transformed, checkpoints a bad memory. Kids biked freely, no glances over shoulders. What do you think about the violence and injustice woven into everyday life? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe systemic change is possible, or is it an endless fight? Take a stand. Your voice matters.